From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. Mayor Megan Barry is our guest on Inside Politics today. We have always appreciated her being willing to come down and make time to talk with us. That was true last year following the tragic overdose death of her son, Max. It is true now. Last week, Mayor Barry disclosed she had a nearly 2-year-long extramarital affair with the head of her security detail, Metro Police Sergeant Rob Forrest. She has apologized for her actions, said she was human, and made a mistake. She has asked Nashvillians for their forgiveness and promised to do whatever she can to earn back the public's trust and confidence while she continues her work as mayor. Mayor has also pledged full cooperation with the several investigations that have begun and to respond to questions from the media. Mayor, thank you for being on the show, and again, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, Pat. I appreciate it.
We start our conversation with the first reaction and question I've gotten from just about everybody as I've talked about this around the community. What were you thinking?
Yeah, clearly that would be the question of the day. As I've said, I'm deeply sorry for all the pain I've caused so many people, and I wish I could go back.
Your professional background is in ethics, corporate ethics compliance. You are aware of the difficulties and challenges in particular that arise from workplace romances, especially with a person working in close support with a subordinate. Yet it happened. Did you just forget your professional training?
I think that I made a very bad call.
When this affair began, or during that affair, did it ever occur to you that Sergeant Forrest ought to be transferred away from working directly with you? You probably would have recommended such a move if you'd been in a corporate situation.
I think upon reflection, there's a time that we should have made a better decision.
He became, in 2017, the second highest paid official within the Metro Police Department, second only to the chief. That was largely because he traveled with you upon recommendation of the chief. Security needed to be with you at all times. He thought that overtime pay he got greatly increased his compensation. Didn't you realize this was going to create a problem?
Well, I mean, I think that when we look at the expenses and the overtime, it was because I had a very aggressive schedule, and it would have been that way whomever was actually serving in that position.
You said repeatedly you've made a mistake. Would some have a problem understanding a mistake that lasts close to 2 years? How do you respond to that?
I can't respond. I mean, I've just said I've made a mistake.
You're a high-profile person. Everywhere you go, you're recognized. Were you just in denial that this affair would never become public knowledge?
I think, as we just said, I'm a high-profile person, and a lot of this is about what kind of a security detail I needed, and clearly the emphasis is on were taxpayer dollars at all misused, and clearly my aggressive schedule meant that I had a lot of public appearances, and I think that is what this is all going to show.
Well, what do you say to people who now question your judgment? This also comes down to a matter of judgment, and for 2 years it appears, at least in this matter, your judgment was not very sound.
I mean, I think that when we look at what we've actually been able to do in Nashville over the last 2 years, if we can set this aside, we've actually made some really good progress on the issues here in Nashville.
When you talked about this for the first time, you said that this was not a tragedy, but it seems to have created some confusion among people, because for some people, the spouses involved, it was a tragedy, or could be a tragedy. So how do you explain the difference? How do you clarify what you meant when you said it's
Sure.
not a tragedy?
When I talked about it, I talked about it from my own personal sense, that the day that my son died was a tragedy. This is a huge mistake, and I know I have hurt a lot of people, including the other family that is involved in this, and my own husband, and we're working through that.
In the many apologies that you've given about this, one group I haven't heard you speak to particularly, and it's a group that you and I have talked about both on and off camera. There are very many young girls and young women in this town who you have become their role model and their hero. You say to them, hey, I can become mayor when I grow up, or I can do whatever I want to do when I grow up. Unlike adults, young children in particular don't understand what it means to be human and make a mistake. So how do you speak particularly to those people, and what do you say in particular to their parents to help them explain and come to grips with finding out that their heroes are maybe not as great a heroes as they thought? Well,
I think that is a frank conversation. I think that there are times when we admire people and we look up to them and we're disappointed by them. And my hope is that these young women and little girls who have looked up to me also realize that you can be human, and it's about how you then own your mistake and move on and make it right.
Nashvillians expect their mayor not only to govern, but they expect that mayor to be at just about every event that's held
Yes.
in town. You have, as you mentioned before, you have a very busy schedule. As you continue to do that now, have you noticed any change with people since you've made this revelation? You have normally in the past treated you like a rock star as mayor over the last couple of years. Is there a little bit more aloofness? Do you feel a chill when you come out to see people in the public?
I mean, I think that, people are like you asking, what happened and why, and my goal is to continue to talk about the great stuff that's going on in Nashville and make that connection and to earn back the trust, and that's what I try to do with every person I meet. So
far as you've gone out, you've been encouraged by the public response, or how have you felt about your being treated?
I mean, I've been encouraged by the fact that people want to talk about Nashville, and they want to talk about earning back trust, and that makes me feel better.
In the days immediately following what happened, I know you had some things received in your office, notes of encouragement, other kind of items, maybe flowers, to say that we still support you as mayor. Are you keeping track of that with your staff, along with emails and letters?
Yeah.
Are you measuring that out against communications you've gotten that aren't as positive?
I think that I'm just grateful for the people who've reached out and given me encouragement. And as one might expect in the South, one thing that people do send is food.
So what kind of food have you been getting?
I get food. It's very sweet.
This revelation has probably touched off more kinds of discussion across a broad range that I've seen in the community, at least in a long time. There's been anger, there's been disappointment. The Tennessean did an editorial that said you betrayed Nashville. There have been some calls for your resignation or leaving office. But there's also been expressions of some support for you. There are now as many as 4 investigations that could be going on. You knew this was going to be a difficult time with more difficult days ahead. Yet you've decided to continue to persevere in your job. As you were evaluating all of this, did you ever seriously consider that you might step down, that maybe that was the best way to avoid some of the pain that you're having to deal with and the other issues that come with this?
I've never been somebody that's been afraid of not stepping up and owning what I've done, and I'm doing that, and we are fully cooperating with the investigations, all of them that are going on, and I have a very high degree of confidence that when this is all said and done, there will be no finding that any taxpayer dollars were ever misused.
Nashville Mayor Megan Barry is our guest. We're talking about the revelations and the disclosures that have happened over the last couple of weeks, about 10 days. Back to continue our conversation with the mayor after this break.